Good evening. Thank you for coming. Few more people this time than last time, but we could use more. Um, if you looked at the agenda, you know what we're going to talk about mostly. We're going to talk about the views, potential integration first, and give you an opportunity to ask any kind of questions that you have, make any kind of comments that you have. And then after that, we're going to open it up for any questions you have about anything as far as the HOA. And we have a board here. Mark Law is not, ow. Mark Law is not here. He's fishing in Alaska, that turn. Anyhow, we have Paula and Mike and Jeff, and I'm Elon. And I want to acknowledge Rodney, who is in charge of our two committees. One is the resident advisors. And do we have any resident advisors here? Oh, why don't you stand up for a second? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Just wanted to. And then Rodney's also in charge of the Views Integration Ad Hoc Committee, which will be working. I'll explain all of how that works. But I thought I'd start with a little. I was thinking a little bit of the other day as I was walking my dog about what brought us here to Coral Canyon. And we came here about 12 years ago. This is my wife here, Eileen. We came here 12 years ago and fell in love with the house. I knew nothing about HOAs. To be honest with you, we built a pool in a hot tub. Never got a DRC request. We're admonished for that. Eileen came home and said, what's going to happen? Are we going to have to dig up the pool? And I said, no, I don't think so. Luckily, it was all within guidelines, so we were okay. So you can see I didn't know anything about it. But what brought us here was the beautiful views, and we loved the trails, walking on the trails, especially because we always have had a dog. And what I didn't realize, however, is after we started walking the trails for a while, we met all kinds of people. Lots of them have dogs, some of them don't. And over time, we became friends with a lot of those people. And then the views started being built about, I don't know, about 7, 8 years? When?
2018 started.
2018, okay, the views started being built. And so, because we live on the mesa, we would walk down there as well, and we met more people. So we had a lot of people in the views. And one of the things I heard from people in the views is, yes. Oh, okay. Well, do you live down here, this area? Okay. Do you know where the mesa is on top? The houses on top? Okay. Where the city park is, you're right. And then if you have Telegraph, then just to the south of Telegraph, there's an old section of our HOA, which is not the views. Have you been up there by any chance? You know where the pickleball courts are and the pool in that old section? Everything south of those is the views. It's about 200 and how many homes? I'm sorry, 124 homes. Right. Does that help? Okay. So anyhow, I got to know some people of the views. And I got involved with the HOA because Lori and I and a few other people got really upset because Colwest wanted to build multi-family homes and condominiums up in where the Solus is right now. And we were in this room and packed in about 300 people into this room, standing room only. And Colwest got the message. So they didn't do what they were going to do initially. But the point is that, well, as I was getting involved with the HOA, I was talking to a lot of my friends in the views, and one of the things they said to me is, we always feel like stepchildren. We can't go, we're not supposed to be going to certain places and so forth and so on. Well, that sort of stuck with me as I got onto the board. And I want you to think a little bit about that aspect as we go through this presentation. What we're going to how many of you are from what we call the master, not the views? Okay. And how many of you are from the Views? Okay. So what we're going to talk about today mostly is, should the Views be allowed to have a vote on integrating with us, with the master? That's what the question is about. It doesn't mean automatically that they will be part of our master. That's going to be determined on them. And Rodney's ad hoc committee is going to be responsible for laying out for all the people in the Views all of the details that they need to know as they're contemplating whether or not they're going to be part of the general HOA, okay? So let me get going on this slide presentation. I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to read. It's going to be on our website, but I'm going to go through all the bullets anyhow, so you'll see what's going on. Oh, also, if there's anything you want to know in terms of clarity of what I'm saying or more information, just raise your hand when I go through it. But after the presentation, we'll have a chance to hear your comments and really discuss this as long as you want. Did you have something? Oh, well, that's what we're going to start out with. It's a great question. Yeah, let's talk about that. So the first bullet on here says, thanks for teeing this up for me. Yeah. While we can speculate, we don't know why Coal West created a different legal structure for the Views. We don't know. What we do know is that it was created as a little more exclusive kind of a community, which means higher assessments, their own pickleball courts, and their own pool. Now, if you look at the Solis, which is above us, above the park on the Mesa, that's a completely separate HOA, okay? It was set up that way. Part of the reason is because we de-annexed from we de-annexed from the entire, from Coral Canyon, where we became a resident-based board rather than a developer-based board. How many of you have lived here less than 3-4 years? Okay, so a lot of you were here when we went through that change, right? So we don't exactly know why, but we assume it's to make money. Yeah. When you say I was told, if it's by a realtor, I'm going to discount it. Okay. Okay. Well, no. We'll get into all of this. Okay. So please hold the questions until I finish. But if there's a clarity, something that I'm not clear about, which happens a lot, then raise your hand and I'll try to clarify. Okay. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Amy. Does everybody know Amy? Our community director? Okay, and we have Scott, and we have Jason back there, part of our staff. I don't know. That's David Cassens. David Cassens is from the Views, and he is the chairman of our financial committee. And I sleep much better at night knowing that he and Brad, and I didn't see it, and Rodney, other people on the financial committee are going through our numbers with a fine-tooth comb. All right? Let's get back to the presentation. So the master, when I say master, it's everybody that belongs to the HOA that's not in the Views. When I say the Views, that's people in the Views, okay? So the master members do not have access to the Views pool, hot tub, pickleball courts, and the new fire pit that's been built there. This is just background. Now, the Views members do not have access to the master clubhouse, pools, hot tub, gym, or the tennis and pickleball courts. So that includes the ones at town center. Okay. The master members are responsible for expenses for all amenities except the Views pool, hot tub, pickleball courts, and the fire pit, and the Views common area. The Views members are responsible for 100% of the expenses of the view's amenities and common area. Plus, they pay 9.3% of all master expenses, except the amenities which they don't have, to which they don't have access. So they contribute to the administration, to the insurance, to all of the things it takes to run an HOA. Their fees are higher than the master fees. Okay? Everybody okay with that? You know, can you save that question? Because Dave will be able to answer that. So glad you came, Dave. Now, a little more background. In April, well, a lot of people in the views were saying maybe they want to de-annex, okay, because they didn't have access to here, and they thought maybe they should de-annex. Do you know what I mean by that? Form their own HOA. And so the board has the ability to say, if you want to have those kind of elections, we'll give you the opportunity to have those kind of elections. So last year, the views had elections to de-annex, but they didn't, that failed. They didn't have enough people voting. Okay? They needed 67% of all views homeowners in order to be able to de-annex, so that didn't happen. So then, the board, at that time, this is the previous board, wanted to be able to give them the opportunity to integrate into and become one HOA. Okay? The board feels that there are some advantages there, but we're pretty neutral on the whole thing. What we do feel is that the views people should have an opportunity to vote on that. So we want to talk about what the impact is. Now, if we announced on May 21st, we announced that the views are going to be having an election to decide whether they want to be part of the master or not. When the board has that kind of announcement, what's that? Oh, sorry. When the board has that kind of announcement, it gives the master 30 days to object to doing that. So if we have over 10% of the master homeowners send an objection in writing, then the vote will not happen and things will stay the same. If we don't get 10%, then the views people will have the opportunity to vote. That's important for everybody to understand. So we have until, what is it, June 21st, okay, to get those objections. Thus far, I don't think we have gotten enough. Now, let's talk about the impact on the master. I'm focusing today mostly on the impact of an integration by the views on the master. Okay? Rodney's committee is still working out the details of what the impact is on them, and they will have town halls and communications to all the views people so they understand what the impact will be to them if they integrate. But we'll give you some of the highlights. Okay, now, the first thing that will happen if they integrate is there will be a $3 per month impact to the master. This does not include normal assessment raises that we might have due to budgets and all of that kind of stuff. Okay? It's strictly a $3 impact to us. Now, how do we calculate the $3? Basically, we took all of the expenses of the views and the master, put them together. Then we divided them by the number of homeowners of the views and the master, because the idea is that everybody would pay exactly the same fee, assessment fee. And when we looked at it, it came out to be $3 more than what the people in the master are paying right now. I'm going to stop right here because you need to understand that calculation. And if there's any questions on that, please come up and ask and we'll answer that. Does that everybody understand this? Wow, good. Wow. All right. If the integration vote passes, both the views and the master homeowners will have access to all of the amenities. So the master will have access to the pool, the Views pool and the pickleball courts, the fire pit, the hot tub, and then the people in the Views will have access to our community center, the gym, which they don't right now, to our pickleball courts, indoor pool, everything, okay? That's what would happen. Any questions thus far for clarity? All right. Go ahead. Oh, thank you for asking. They're going to go down significantly. I can't tell you exactly how much. Do you have a number on that or an estimate? $29 to $30 a month. So for them, it's a significant decrease. Okay? What's that? That's correct. That's correct. Now I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to try to cost justify this on a financial basis. Okay? If you look at it strictly from a financial basis, okay, it's a good deal for the Views. It may or may not be, depending on people, $3. I look at it $3 and I could use a pickleball courts at the Views. I live in the Mesa. To me, it's a good deal. To some people, it's not. I don't care about the pool. We have our own pool. We have our own amenities. I don't use any pool here. I still pay the same amount of money as people who use the pool. So, okay. Now, some concerns by the master homeowners that we've heard, and I'm sure there's more, and I'm sure we'll hear some of them today. I hope we do. One of the things that we hear is more people will be using our gym, pool, and pickleball courts, meaning, here, down here. That's a possibility, but let me make you think about a number of things. First of all, about 40% of the homeowners in the Views they're part-timers. Second of all, they've got their own pool. They got their own pickleball courts, okay, so they probably won't use those. Although, right now, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have the pickleball club who uses the pickleball courts, and Views people play it because a master member can invite somebody from the Views or somebody even from somewhere else to play. So that in reality, and I look at the gym, I'm there all the time. I don't use the gym, I'm at the you could tell I'm not at the gym, okay? But I never see more than a couple of people in the gym. So I don't know that this is an issue. Another thing that I hear is I won't use the Views pool, hot tub, pickleball courts, and fire pit, but I'll be paying $3 per month more in assessments. That's correct. Just like me. I don't use the pool, I don't use the pickleball courts. I still have to pay as much as people who do use it. So that's true. Okay? No, a month. Yeah, we pay, the master pays quarterly, okay? The Views pays monthly, right? Yeah, another change, another difference, which we have to keep tab of. Yeah, so quarterly it's $9. Monthly it's $3. Okay. What are some of the integration benefits to the master homeowners? First of all, access to the Views pool, hot tub, pickleball courts, and fire pit. Next, a simplified administrative process. Right now, we have to keep 2 separate sets of books. It's a lot of work, okay? Not only that, we have 3 checking accounts for each one of those entities. So we have 6 checking accounts. So instead, if we integrated, we'd have 1 set of books and 3 checking accounts, making life a lot easier. What does that mean? And there's a lot of work associated with keeping separate books and treating the Views separately, okay? Now, what does that mean? What it means is we'll probably see some efficiencies in how the staff utilizes their time. I'm not going to try to tell you what it means in terms of dollar savings. I don't think we're in a position to be able to say that, and I don't want to make any promises. But we know that the staff will be able to focus on areas that they perhaps aren't able to focus on right now. They'll have more time. Okay? What I put in red over there, in case you can't read it, is inclusion of the Views residents and equal members of our Coral Canyon community. That, to me, personally, is the one and only reason I'd like to see this happen. Because these are our friends. We have Dave, we have Rodney, they're volunteers, we have other volunteers from the Views. They're involved with all of our community activities. And I'd like to see them be equal members with us if they would like to do that. Okay? So that's the biggest thing I have there. What are the integration benefits to the Views? And I'm not going to get too detailed here because Rodney and his team is going to outline more of this and how it's going to happen. But they'll have access to the community center, pools, and pickleball courts. They'll have lower expenses for the common area, landscaping, and maintenance. They'll have reduced assessments, equal membership in the Coral Canyon community, and they will have, as I said, we'll have the realignment of the CMC staff to be able to focus on other things which they can't focus on right now. Okay? That's it in a nutshell. So I'm inviting anybody who has comments, questions, to come up to the microphone so we can, it's being recorded. So can you come up? Or, well, hang on a second, I'll tell you what, can I use my microphone? I'll come over to you.
People at the View, most of the people at the Views you say are part-timers.
No, about 40, 50%.
Out their property when they're
No, there's no rentals except, well, I'm not going to say it that way. They can rent their property out, but it has to be currently a minimum of 30 days. Okay? And just so you know, and this is another topic, but we're reviewing our rental policies right now, and down the line, all of the members will have an opportunity to vote on those rental policies, but there's nothing in place right now. Okay? There was another question. Can you come up?
I'm Gayla DeStefano, and I live here in the Coral Canyon area. But my question is, when we buy a home, don't we look at the community and the amenities that are offered when we're making our decision? I want to be a good neighbor, but the people that are in the View, they knew what they had when they bought or built their home. I drove up there the other day, and I'm not going to go in the winter and use their facilities. It's all outdoors. To be honest, I do not use a lot of the amenities at our Coral Canyon clubhouse unless we have visitors or our grandchildren are here. And for the most part, it is really, really nice because it's not really crowded. However, on Memorial Day or, you know, holidays, things like that, it gets quite crowded. And I'm concerned if we have more people coming, even though they only have 40%, but they're going to be coming to use their homes on holidays, which makes our facility here in Coral Canyon a lot more crowded. And I don't like the fact that we will be paying more to have them integrate in here and use all of our facilities, and their rates go down. And that may seem a little rude but for the most part, I'm a nice person and I want to be a nice neighbor. But I think for the most part, when we buy a home, we know what our HOA is going to include. And just in comparison, what we have and the pool and everything outdoors up there, I don't think it's a fair trade. That's just me.
And you're entitled to that opinion, and you can object in writing. Yes.
Could,
Just
could
one,
you ask questions if you're on video?
just one comment. When I moved into Coral Canyon, 2018, I didn't pay for the clubhouse. It was already there. If I'm a Views resident, I paid for all those amenities. It wasn't bought by Coal West. So Dave Casson and Rodney and everyone that moved in the Views, I think was $2,000 a person. Was that right? Yeah. And so in reality, those amenities were bought and paid for by every individual resident. And so if you do just basic $2,000 times 124, it might be close to $250,000 worth of amenities that the master would now have access to. Now, how does that compare to the clubhouse that is part of the master? I don't know the dollar amounts, but that gives you an idea what the cost of those amenities were for each Views resident that bought into that.
Amy reminded me also that, and we've heard this multiple times, a lot of the people in the Views were told, by the developer and the realtors that they will have access. Now, that was not in writing. I don't know how many of you read the bylaws and CC&Rs when you signed your papers. Okay, I did. Some people didn't, but just food for thought. Any other comments, questions?
Can I make a question?
Brian, hang on.
Hello?
Yeah.
I'm in the Views. My
Okay,
question,
How many, in the masters, how many residents or homes are there?
You mean how many are part-time?
No,
Or
the whole complex.
how many are there? Well, what is the exact number? 1,200 and
Yeah, I was thinking about 1,300.
with the Views.
Just give or take.
No, with the
but
Views, it's 1,300 and I think 88. It's 1,200 and something. What is it? 1,214 in the master and 124 in the
Okay.
Views.
So 1,300, let's say, whatever, 12, 14. They're going to go $36 a year, not a ton more, 1,214. But 124 people are going to go down $30.
Right.
So that doesn't compute in my brain. And I've been here 9 years. And if I don't use the pool once a month, that's my choice.
Right.
Yes, I'm paying for it.
Right.
And that doesn't bother me, but it's there if I need it. And when Dave was here, I was under the impression that the Views knew everything about,
And your camera doesn't
they're going to
work
be
these days.
separate, they're not
Didn't
going to
even
be
check.
included in our area, our masters. That was what I received. And they'll have their own, like all their amenities, they're responsible for that. Their property, they're responsible. And even I thought once that, but whatever, I'm just, that doesn't sound right to me. $3 a month to $30 less. Yeah, their initial cost, I don't know. But they knew I think, what they were getting into.
Like-
I knew what I was getting into 9 years ago. And I love it. But and the HOA has gone up quite a bit, $110
Mm-hmm.
or more,
Right.
a little bit per quarter.
Right.
And so, that's, I don't know if it's inflation, but in different projects needed done. So that's the reason I.
If you're gonna look for a financial justification for the integration, you're not gonna find it.
Right. And
That's
I
the
could
bottom
see
line.
Just like You want to be a good neighbor, everything, but who polices the rentals if they are a rental?
We do. The Views is controlled by our same staff. They are bound by the same legal documents as we are.
So this board and the volunteer board you talked about, they're also working for the Views and in the Masters.
Yeah, that's why the Views are contributing to the master. Okay.
Yeah.
I chaired the finance committee for a number of years, and so I watched this with interest. I live in the Masters. I pay $84 a month, okay? If I live in the Views, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, I pay $105 a month. Is that correct? 117 a month plus the 37, or is it that include the 117? So the difference already right now is $16.17 is what, 33? I pay 33 more dollars. I pay 33 less than the Views do right now. That's a month. 84 times 3 is 253. That's what we all pay. Yeah. That's a general master rate for each resident.
Now, for people in the master, the fact that we can use the pickleball courts over there or the pool, that's to us, that's an advantage.
I'm going to be pretty nice, actually.
Just a second, Brian, sorry.
Sure.
If you're online and you have your hand up, can you put your question in the chat? Because we're not, oh, okay, never mind. For some reason, the chat. Okay, if you have a question and you're online, will you text it to 831-206-4329? Thank you.
Ryan,
Hi,
how you doing?
Peachy. How are you?
Great.
Explain the voting process that's going to transpire here.
There's
Question is the Views going to vote on this and we are not?
no, we are able to vote on it by having 10% or more than 10% of the people object in writing.
Okay, so
So if you don't want to see the vote happen, you need to send an email to the staff. It's all in the Chronicle,
What
and
I'm
telling
saying-
them that we're not,
so
you're against
if
it.
the people at the View vote and they have to have 2/3 to pass it.
Yes, if the
And
people,
then it comes to us?
no. If we do not get 10% of the people objecting in writing by June 21st,
Okay.
the Views will decide whether or not they want to integrate. And it's not a slam dunk by any means.
Okay. That was my question.
Yeah.
I'm Bill. And
Hello, Bill.
I've actually lived here 18 years,
Wow.
and so I've seen a lot of changes, but it's a real positive place to work, to live. I want to be a good neighbor too, but I have some of the same concerns that I'm hearing here. You know, it doesn't make sense from a financial standpoint for us, and then also just from the standpoint that we're going to have more people using the clubhouse, et cetera. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, since I've been here 18 years, I've seen a substantial increase in our dues assessments, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand there's inflation and that type of thing. However, I also understand that a lot of it is that, what has it been here, 22 years now that the Coral Canyon's been around?
Right.
And we're seeing a lot of things that need upgrades, you know, constantly upgrades to our pools, tennis courts,
Right.
things like that. And now we're seeing our irrigation systems and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
In a few years, first off, the Views is brand new. But in a
Right.
few years, they're going to see some of those same things.
Correct.
And so I see everybody's, including theirs too, going up at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we'll be sharing in that, which if this didn't happen, we wouldn't be sharing in that. So.
That's correct. We wouldn't be sharing it, but if we're combined, then we have the reserves. You know, you all know what reserves are? It's like a savings account. That we'll have the reserves of both the Views as well as us. So that gives us some flexibility.
But anyway, everybody would be sharing in that increased cost of upgrading their amenities at that point.
Sure.
And that could be 10, 15 years, whatever, but it will happen.
Well, think about insurance companies. The more people they have contributing with premiums, the more ability they have to take care of all kinds of issues. So if we're adding more people, if you want to look at it that way, if we have more people contributing, okay, with their assessments and pumping up the reserves, it gives us more flexibility as well.
I understand what you're saying, but I just know that our HOA dues will increase when we start seeing some of those expenses. So,
Well, they will, yeah, just like they'll increase for the views as well. No question about it.
anyway,
Okay. Again, I'm not going to be able to tell you this on a financial basis. By the way, the views people may not vote to integrate either because they are more concerned about us coming to their pool and their pickleball courts.
also, back on, how did the 9.3% come about?
Oh, now this is what,
Yeah.
Dave, you better,
Well, that's easy. It's just the percentage of homes. So the views is 9.3% of the homes of the combined masters and views. So that's where we come up with the 9.3%.
so basically they're sharing, and this would continue with or without an integration vote. They're sharing in the expenses associated with us administrating all of the activities. Yeah.
I'd just like to clarify, we're not using numbers in some of these discussions, but I moved here in 2019 and my dues were $50 a month. My dues today are $84 a month. So in 7 years, my dues have gone up $34. Many people say, well, why do our dues go up every month? It's inflation. Inflation of that same time period went up 25, 30%. I wish we could control that. I can't control when Washington City increases the water costs. I can't control when they increase the electric costs. I can't control when Questar or Angle or whatever their name is this week raises our gas bills. And chlorine is a primary example. Those of you who have pools know that you're paying a lot more for chlorine than you did in 2018. And so as a board, we've tried to keep those costs down, those dues increases down. And I think when you look at it, $34 in 7 years was that average, 5 times 7, $5 a year average. So I really don't think, I do a dues comparison at the annual board meeting every year, and everyone else has increased dramatically compared to us. We've only gone up a little over cost of living. So I think your dues are reasonable for what you get. We have 24 miles of road that we have to maintain. Not road, but the curb and gutter. That is our responsibility, 24 miles. That's like from here to halfway to Cedar City, we have to maintain on those roads. And that's not cheap. The landscaping company has been with us for years, and they give us a pretty good deal, but they don't do it for free.
There's one more thing I think we should point out. The views don't have any pocket parks. We do. 8 pocket parks. 6 pocket parks. We've just gotten some estimates. This is ballpark. But a lot of them are, if you look at our pocket parks, are not in very good shape. Okay? We're going to have a survey coming out that's going to ask people what they would like to see in those pocket parks. Should we continue with pocket parks? Should we convert them to something else? But any way you put it, even just to tear them down, is very expensive. The views don't have any pocket parks. Okay? So if you're talking about sharing in costs, okay, it's one of the benefits that we would have more people contributing if we have to take care of those pocket parks. Just an example. They're going to say, wait a minute, you know, I'm helping pay for the pocket parks? Okay. So there's 2 sides to every story here. And we have a lot more common area that requires irrigation than the views does. Yes, sir.
I'm Mike Holmes. You guys already published my comment that I mailed in soon after receiving the email. Because I look at it from a financial perspective. It makes there's no rhyme or reason to do it from a financial perspective. I want to ask a question to the master folks. How many of you use the master facilities? How many of you would use the Views facilities? Maybe one or two.
Yes. Well, we're getting our own, the Masters is
Okay.
getting a hot tub now, too.
So that for the Views folks, how many of you use your own facilities? And how many of you would use the master facilities? I think it's the board who's pushing this and not the members of not the community. I'll be honest with you, if the members of the master, the Views, want to use a fire pit, they can come to my house. And I'm not going to charge them $3 a month either
Okay.
to use it.
With all due respect, I would like to correct one thing. The board
Yes.
is not pushing anything. The board is pushing the idea that the Views should be able to have a
Well, the
vote.
Views already said, no, we don't want to do it. Then the
No.
board decided.
No,
to
no,
push
no,
it
no.
again.
The Views said they don't want to go on their own. They don't want to be a separate HOA. Now, this vote would be, do you want to be part of the master? The board doesn't care. The board is neutral on this.
No, they're not.
No,
The board is not neutral.
I
on this.
personally care because I am a good neighbor.
You know what? Put that aside. We're all neighbors. We're all part of Coral Canyon. If I live a mile away from someone on the hill versus here, we're all neighbors.
Well, I'm willing to shell out $3 a month so that the people in the Views can be our full neighbors. That's my personal
Well,
opinion.
again, Gayla made the point. I appreciate it. She's a good woman. She's very kind. I'm not as kind as she is. But you know what? You knew what you bought when you bought into the area. The reason why I bought here is because of the amenities as well and the cost, which at the time was like $45 a month.
Okay.
Yes, it's gone up a little bit, and whether or not they tear out the pocket parks, that's a hypothetical. We have no idea.
You have a right to your opinion, and you have a right to vote against it.
Already
This
did.
is why we're here.
No, I appreciate it, but I just want to say, I just want to share my opinion. I think there's a lot of people here in the Views who feel that they're not getting the bang for their buck. When companies synergize, they get together, they synergize, it's to save costs. We're getting $3 extra. The Views are getting $30 less. There should be some cost savings in there somewhere. You're going to go from 6 bank accounts to 3, one set of books supposedly. There's got to be some savings. If there's not savings, it's not a very good deal for the
I agree
the
with you.
master.
There is savings, but we haven't put absolute numbers to it. And if I don't have an absolute number to it, I'm not going to quote anything.
Okay. Anyway, thanks.
Yes, come on.
I'm Glenda, and I've also been here 18 years. Just the comment of their savings, but you're not willing to put a number to it, then why do you know that we're going to be charged $3 more? So you have put numbers to it.
No, we put
somewhere.
numbers as to what the impact will be to the Views.
And
Sorry, to the
us,
master. To the master.
Okay. so
But
you-
we have not put a number to what will happen when we only have to manage one set of books, 3 checking accounts,
Okay.
those kind of things. Those are soft numbers right now. Over time, we can come up with better numbers, but we don't have that right now.
Okay. My other concern is, yes, your primary reason is we want to be good neighbors. Well, I would like to be good neighbors to Green Springs. I've got several friends there. We have there's no reason that we can't still be good neighbors, but that's not a reason to bring us in to our community to get all the benefits. That seems like the primary reason that you guys are giving.
Well, Green Springs doesn't have any people involved in all of our activities. So let's remember that a lot of people from the Views go to our activities. They are part of committees. They're a very important part of the committees that we have. They've been very much integrated into our community in many ways. Okay? And there are people from the master using the Views amenities, and there are people from the Views using the master amenities. Because for instance, if you play pickleball, okay, one master player can bring in 3 people who are not master homeowners. So in reality, we're integrated in many ways. from a financial point of view, you know, you can look at it one way. Gee, I'm going to get charged $3 more a month, and they get to they're going to save $30 a month. Okay, if that bothers you, I guess that bothers you. I mean, it doesn't bother me.
I'm thinking the Views has had a reserve study, is that correct?
Yes,
What's the status of their reserves? Are they 100%?
they're better than we are.
What's the percentage?
What
do
is
you
the
know?
percentage?
It's about 200, over 200% overfunded.
Over 200%.
Okay. And for the Views to pass this, what is the percentage that they need?
67% of all homeowners.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay, this is coming from my wife.
Who's smarter than you? No, I know Brian.
Not a problem.
I know Brian.
Not an issue. What she was brought up is most people don't know they have to send in a written response because the letter that was sent out did not clarify that. So what about these people? Like, I've got a guy down at the end of the block that never does anything because he doesn't know about it. And I got a lady across the street that she's even more oblivious than I am.
It was quite clear in the Chronicle. It was in the Chronicle. My letter also said that.
Huh?
My letter and the Chronicle both said you have to submit it in writing, and it gave the email address and everything else.
Yeah, you did.
Now, if they're not getting the Chronicle, if they're not reading their emails, you know,
Yeah, I understand that. But I mean, it's like sometimes I explain.
what's that? Well, you know, you got to read. I don't know what to say, and we tried to communicate as best we can what's going on. That's why we're having this town hall meeting. We're explaining this right now. People who aren't here, don't care, won't know. I don't know what else we can do about it. We're trying continuously, and we have improved significantly the number of people who are getting emails and opening them up. But not everybody. Some people don't have computers, and some people don't care. I didn't care. I didn't care about anything about the HOA until I got some citations for parking my trailer. All of a sudden, I cared.
We have email addresses, and it's sent out to everyone in the community. And there's only 10 homes that we don't have email addresses for. So if they don't have a computer, there's notices. We've mailed everything out to say all the notices are on the bulletin board at the clubhouse.
Right, and we have sent them in writing information about being able to opt out of getting emails. Now, if somebody isn't capable of getting the communication, I'm not sure what I can do about that. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Going forward, how is this going to transpire? We have to handwrite by the 21st
Yes.
to the office or whatever, yay or nay? Or mainly?
No, but what you basically prefer that you don't have handwriting, but you can bring it to the office if you want to,
Okay.
because you can't transmit handwriting easily
So
over
when
computer.
does the views
20,
vote?
the vote hasn't been determined yet, but we expect it would be in July. And the reason for that is we need to know whether or not the Views is going to integrate before our budget period, which begins around August, September. So if it doesn't happen this year, we're going to continue having two budgets, two sets of books, move on. And I'm not sure when, if ever, we would have another vote. That's up to another board.
So say if it's voted hypothetically to go down, you get all from us, the 21st.
Yeah,
Whatever, 10% is it?
yeah, over 10%.
And they say no, Then it's kind of a mute thing for them to
then the
vote.
views will not vote.
Yeah, they're.
Then
they
we're
vote.
done.
Okay.
We continue on as is. It can be an email, yeah. Yeah, I just did, didn't I? Oh, sorry. You can object via email. That's objecting in writing, okay, if you are against it. Yes.
Just out of curiosity, have you received any objections?
Yes, 16. Amy's doing the math. Hang on. $122.
Looking for specific links at the email, such as
I object to the views having an integration vote. Is there anything else that we need? I think that's it. No. Yeah, you don't need to hire a lawyer.
No, there's a lot of lawyers in the Views.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Trey Collier. I'm one of your Views neighbors. So
Hey,
I've
welcome.
been here a year and a half. I just want to understand that everyone's like, we understood what we were going to get, right? So we bought a great house in a great neighborhood. We knew we were only going to get a pool and a hot tub, and we knew we were going to get a pickleball courts. And then the fire pit showed up, which is actually quite nice. I'm not sure if it's actually working yet or not, but it's there. It does work. Oh, sweet. I'll go check it out. We have one in our backyard, so that's why we haven't gone over there. But we knew what we were getting into. But I think what people are missing, when we bought, we were told that we would have our own entity for about 2 years. And then we would integrate into the rest of Coral Canyons because we are the Views at Coral Canyons. We were told this by the developer. We were told this by the real estate agent. We were told this by all of our neighbors. We all think that's the way it's going to be. To be quite honest with you. Am I kidding? No, I'm very serious. So we are one family that's 50%, we're one of 50% that live there full time. So we're there every day. Most of our neighbors, we see them occasionally on the weekends, here and there, blah, blah, blah. You know, I can tell you that on a busy day at the pool, on a weekend, there might be 8 people. It's not like it's overran and it's the public pool down the street. No, it's very small, it's very contained, and it's usually grandparents with their grandkids. That's all it ever is. We're not here to impede, we're not here to take over or anything. We just thought this is the way it was going to be. So when they asked us, do you want to vote for it? We were like, well, of course we're going to vote for it because we thought this is what everybody wanted. Clearly, this is not what you want. So thanks for being neighbors. And when someone asks me if I live in Coral Canyons, I'm going to say, no, I live in the Views. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry you got to do double work. I know how I'm voting.
The board loves the Views. We don't mind.
Yeah, I love the ones that have shown us when we're walking our trails, we walk our dogs every day. We see everyone. Everyone is polite. Everyone is kind. And it is great. But we're clearly not welcome. So thanks.
To be honest with you guys, I'm going to echo what he's saying. I'm standing here thinking about how my friends in the Views are feeling with the comments that they're hearing, but that's okay.
Do you know, if you just made it work financially, if you just didn't, they're adding amenities, if they didn't go down that much and we go up, why can't you make it a little better? You know, I mean, I'm not saying $3 a month is that bad, but it just doesn't seem like if they're getting additional amenities, why are we paying for that, you know? And I don't really, I mean, I'd love to, I think in my opinion, mostly it's about ours going up and theirs coming down. That's how I feel. And the people I've talked to, that's what they've said. So it's not that we don't want to use it, but why, we've already have enough raises, and you know they're just going to keep going up.
Yeah, I really get upset when I think about how many, how many tax breaks people with lots of children get, because my children are grown up and I don't get any tax break. But I still, no, I have to pay more taxes to get the same benefits. So if we're looking for equality here financially, as I said all along, you're not going to find it.
But why not make it that way?
Well, if they're going to integrate, they're going to be, if they're going to integrate, that means as full members, then we're all going to pay the same amount of assessments. Okay? The reason they're paying more money right now is because they only have about 124 of them paying for maintenance for the pool and the pickleball courts. The maintenance on their pool is nearly as expensive as the maintenance on our pool. But we've got about 1,200 and something people who are paying the maintenance for that pool. That's why their assessments are going to go down, because now we're all going to share equally in all amenities. It's math. Okay?
You have to follow what we inherited from the Home Builders Board. We inherited a situation where parks hadn't been maintained for years. Sprinkling systems hadn't been maintained for years. The first price tag we had on sprinklers was $430,000. Then we started looking at the parks. Then we got an estimate on the parks, $340,000. Those things we inherited, and it's not the issue. We're paying as we go. We have way enough in our reserve funds to cover those things. We're not looking at additional assessment to cover amenities. However, when you look at what we inherited at the Views, their assessment was over $100, and then they weren't paying administrative fees, so the previous community manager added $37, I think it was $37, to their fees. And so that's where you come up with 130, is it Dave? 117 versus me at 84. The difference is those things were historical. We didn't go back in and say, well, Views, we're going to lower you to 84 because, you know, it was not appropriate for us to do that. We could have, but how would you develop the rationale? And so a lot of things get cleared up in terms of financing if we're one community sharing the whole load. I can tell you, I'm very conservative with finances. I managed a multi-million-dollar college for years, and every penny that went out the door, I squoze it twice. And so it hurts me when we have to increase your dues. But I can tell you, the things that have gone up that have built your dues, there's only roughly, Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, $10,000 to $15,000 worth of contingency in your budget. So other than the reserve fund, which has $1.4 million, your contingency fund is less than $20,000. And so the budgets are squeaky tight, even though we've increased. You know, I pay 84 versus 50 after 6 years, but I can tell you, I understand the reason why. And it's realistic, and none of us, everyone in the Finance Committee, in fact, last year, under Dave and Rodney's and Brad's direction, we looked at every line item in the budget for almost a 6-month period. Now, that's going through every single expenditure and deciding whether it was relevant or not. So when we built the 25 budget, it was the most accurate budget we've ever built, because for the first time, we'd gone through every expenditure, every revenue source. Revenue sources are not going to go up anymore. Coral Canyon's built out. The Views are built out. There's no more additional revenue coming in from new members paying dues. There is no additional revenue going to the sponsor, which is Sitla, because, you know, there's no more new houses being built other than resales and whatever comes out of resales. So we're in a situation where we're a build-out community now. We're not a growing community. We couldn't depend on the new homes coming in supporting the old homes. we as a community now have to support ourselves. Having the views come in, is that a good deal or a bad deal? You'll have to decide that. We as a board don't really take a strong position. We might individually have positions, but from day one, since I was on the Finance Committee, this issue has been a significant issue that used a lot of our Finance Committee time. Because when you have two entities, two bank accounts, and so forth and so on, when you add the petroglyphs in, you have three. That's where you get 6 checking accounts and so forth.
I'm going to add to that. Just think about this. If you could avoid one mistake, accounting mistake, because you've got more focus on the financials, that accounting mistake could cost us way more than the $3 a month we're talking about. Okay? Right now, they're doing an admirable job looking at both sets of books. But you know, the more work, the more opportunity there is for somebody to make a mistake, whether it's the financial committee, the board, CCMC, okay, just a lot more work to be done. And one mistake like that could cost a lot more money. Or if the staff is busy doing other things, is not able to do certain things because of the work that they have to do, maintaining two separate organizations, that a mistake could easily amount to way more than the $3 a month we're talking about. Can I put an absolute number on it? No. Can't. But from my perspective, having worked at a lot of companies, I know that if we are only maintaining one set of books instead of two, we're going to see some significant benefits. I can't tell you what those are right now. And that's something to think about as well. If you want to justify this based on finance and not being a good neighbor. No, I mean, I've heard a number of people say, I want to be a good neighbor.
Well, let's team up with Bloomington, Greensbury. I don't care.
They're not part of us.
The fact of the matter is when you say neighbors or not neighbors, it's like saying, do it for the children. I mean,
That's Sitla's line.
good neighbors.
It's up to you. The board is okay, whatever happens.
My name's Ray,
Hello, Ray.
and I have a question. Why are we keeping their books? What was the agreement to begin with to keep their books? I mean, is that what Cole West?
Yeah, Cole
put us
West
into?
did this.
Then why don't we go back to Cole West and say, you need to straighten this out? You've put us in this mess.
They set it up legally, and they're out of
Legally,
it.
is there paperwork that says that?
Yeah, everything they set up was totally legal. It's
Are you
recorded,
sure?
positive. It's recorded in the county. Okay.
Okay.
That's how they set it up. And Cole West is no longer involved in the views or in the master.
They aren't now, but it wasn't a good job of transition, it doesn't sound like.
It was
from
totally
Cole.
legal. There's nothing we can do about
Okay,
it.
you're going to stand on the legal, but it wasn't a very good legal transition then if we decided to take over their financial statements and their responsibilities. Just my opinion.
Well, it was set up before we ever. Yeah, they're under our bylaws. They're under our CCNRs. Okay, they're using everything is in common, insurance, everything else. I can't undo what's happened in the past.
Hi, I'm Allison Galing, and I live in the master, not in the views. And I think I'm agnostic on this. I could argue it either way. But what I'm thinking about is my husband and I went out to Freddy's the other day for lunch, and we got hamburgers and onion rings, and he got a milkshake, and that bill was $27. So I'm thinking, whatever decision I make, I'm not going to make it over $36, over an annual change of $36. So if that's helpful to some people, then great, I'm glad I stood up. And if not, I'm still glad I stood up because I like to talk off the phone for some time.
Thank you.
Two points. one is there's legal and there's ethical. So you have to think about both sides, but just blowing it off as legal, I don't think is always ethical. The other question I have is if we're keeping the views and the petroglyphs books and stuff, why are you leading us to believe that we're already paying for that? Aren't they paying for that part?
Yeah,
Aren't
they're-
they paying the management company?
Yes,
for
they are
that?
paying the management company.
So that's not an expense that we have to worry about. The books are going to get messed up and it's going to cost us more money.
No, it just means that if the views are part of us, then we only have one set of books to take care of. And then we still have the staff of CCMC here, okay? So we're still going to be spending the same amount of money for the staff, but they'll be able to do additional things that they can't do now. That's all. As far as the ethical thing, you know, I can't make CoWest do anything based on ethical things. I can only make CoWest do things on a legal basis.
But I think we can conduct ourselves for what's legal and ethical, and not everybody does that. Really? Yeah. Hello. Yeah. I'm glad you got that. We do.
Back again. Well, first off, I just want to commend the HOA board. I mean, I think you guys are doing a great job. And I know it's not always fun, really. I mean, you really are.
Thank you.
I have no issues with that. I do have a couple of questions. I get my property, I pay $700 for a bond that sometimes is going
Yes, 2027?
to.
I can't wait.
Do you folks see that on your property?
Yeah, we all do.
So you do too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And explain to me the petroglyphs. I don't understand that. Are they separate like the views are? Or?
No. The petroglyphs are, Mike could probably do a better job on this than me. Why don't you go ahead?
Where are they physically, Mike?
The petroglyph surrounds the elementary school. So when you take off of Coral Canyon Boulevard and you go down that little road you get to the elementary school, that whole section is called the petroglyphs. It has 44 units that are rental. And so inside the petroglyphs are not rentals, but 22 duplexes, 44 units, and we maintain their landscaping and charge them for it. And so the petroglyphs is a small part of the community. It's the oldest part of the community. And it was established in the, my home was built in 2001 in the petroglyphs. And so my home was one of the first ones in the petroglyphs by the elementary school. And then it's developed and now it's built out. Doesn't bring in a lot of revenue. There's not a lot of expenses other than the landscaping, and the homeowners pay extra assessment to cover their landscaping. Okay. So the petroglyphs, the Coral Canyon is the petroglyphs, the master, and the views, and I guess you could say the highlands, but those are the elements of our community.
There's one more thing, just since you asked. They actually own the property just below their house. The landscape area is HOA property. That's why we maintain them, and we charge them for that too.
On Telegraph here, isn't there a section up there also that's part of Coral?
You're talking about the rise, or what? The Mesa? No, Telegraph. Right off.
No.
Like those townhomes.
I'm going to Hurricane on Telegraph, on the right.
Yes. There is a small portion.
Are they
They're part
called
of.
anything
They're part of
different?
the master.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Well, they're so simple. They're really simple. They don't have any common area. I mean, they're very easy. Other comments, questions? Let's open it up to also not just a view, anything else that you want to ask.
So, pocket park, tear them down. How many bids? Let me start over. The pocket parks, if you tear it down and you said it's expensive, or to refurbish or whatever, upgrade, how many bids do you get and how much transparency is on that out to each email account that you have of us, that we see it and go, oh, okay. You got X amount here for ABC, VVB gets X amount, their bid. So how's that work?
Okay, first of all, one of the things we're learning is there aren't a lot of companies locally that do playground work, okay? We have to worry about safety, you know, we have potential liabilities, so I don't know how many, if we haven't even decided what we're gonna do with those pocket parks yet, because we're gonna send out a survey, we wanna see what people would like to have. Personally, I wish they were never built, that's my own opinion, because we don't have a lot of kids, we have parks, regular parks. But not even Coal West, the previous developer built them. So we're gonna go through and see what the options are besides just building playgrounds. Maybe some of them will have playgrounds, maybe others will not. But anywhere you put it, we're gonna have to spend some money. As far as transparency on any expense, not just pocket parks, any expense, you can have access to all of our financials. The financial committee meetings are open meetings. You can come and listen, okay? If you have a question about, you can call our treasurer, you can call Dave. Well, I don't know if you call Dave, but we'll get you the answer. If you have any kind of question about any expenses, please go ahead and ask, and we'll get you the answer. There are no secrets whatsoever. Everything is published every month.
Hey, I'm Kevin DeStefano, and I think the question that he was asking was, when you submit bids, I've been on a school board, I've been on a committee as well, where you submit a bid to have something done, you submit it out, and there are like 3 or 4 bids that come back in.
Mm-hmm.
The people don't get to decide on that.
That's correct.
It's the committee that decides on that.
It's the board.
It's the board, and you can take whatever one you so choose. Now,
correct.
You may not take the lowest because maybe they're not the best.
Yeah.
And so you have an opportunity to make a different choice.
Right.
When that happens. So reality is we as members are relying on you.
That's right.
To take care of that. And I think that was what his question was.
That's correct.
When we started looking at contracts from the previous administrator and the previous board, we found that the contracts were lacking, sometimes non-existent, sometimes a few sentences. And these contracts had gone on for 20 years. So we as a board says we're gonna bid out every contract. We started with our management company. CCMC had to bid for their job. They didn't have an ongoing contract with us. They had to bid for it. We did the same thing with landscaping. We bid that out. We're doing the same thing on every account that we have. The reason parks came up is that we found out through some efforts of Allison's husband that the sawdust or the filling under the playground equipment was lacking. It was supposed to be 14 inches. So as we started to get into the parks and we did a pretty hefty analysis, we found out that they were all deficit of something. You know, and then you get a bid of you know, roughly 400,000. You got 350 on sprinkling systems, you got 400,000 on parks. Well, guess what? This is what happens when you go for 20 years and you don't have a board that's managing your finances as for the members, not for the builder, but for the members. And so consequently, we've had to allocate 60 to 80,000 a year just to keep up with sprinkling systems and parks. We could spend $500,000 this year on sprinkling systems and parks. We won't. We'll extend that over 5 or 6 years and deal with it as we can. But when we go in, we do a whole circuit. If you have a problem with one sprinkling system, we'll go into the valve and we'll replace everything and make everything current like we did in the petroglyphs. So we're after it, but it's challenging when you had 20 years of limited maintenance, very limited maintenance, because maintenance cost the home builder money when you did maintenance.
Great conversation. I love this. This is great. We finally have a town hall where people are talking. That's great.
Just a comment about the pocket parks. If we decide to dismantle them all, could a cost-saving option be to have volunteers from the community go in and take down the equipment rather than have a bid out?
Well-
You may have to have a release.
Yeah, we
assigned.
could talk about that. Of course, we always have to consider liabilities, and
Right, you could
we have a lot of
assign a
people who are
release.
not in the greatest shape in this community as well.
But we
So
have some that are very handy too.
there's some very handy, I guess we could look at it.
Just something to think
It's
about.
that's not a bad idea, but insurance tells us what we can and cannot do often from a liability point of view. It's something we always have to consider. Believe me, there's a number of projects that a number of us said, let's just go get it done, but we have to be careful.
Brian, was it you that asked how many votes it needed for the 10%? Somebody did, sorry. I'm sorry. So I went 10%, but it's actually more than 10% and it doesn't go by fractions, so it's like 11%, so it's 134. Sorry, I had to
Yeah, come on. Can you? That's okay. Anything's good.
I lived here 2 years, my first time home buyer, and I have a 6-foot block wall behind my house. And then behind that is where they're building all the Brighton Springs homes.
Oh, Brook Springs?
Oh, Brook Springs,
Yes.
sorry. There's a huge tree right behind my brick wall. Is that my responsibility? Because my realtor didn't say anything, but I've heard from other people that I'm responsible for 6 feet on the other side of my block wall.
You're responsible for what's on your property. So a block wall may or may not be exactly on your property line. The only way to tell where your property line is to go to the county. The county, right? Is that? The assessor's office.
So say it is on my property line. How am I supposed to get over a block wall when I'm in the middle of a street?
Well, you could chop the tree down too, I guess. You know, we could look at that situation. First
I've asked
question
the
is.
HOA a couple of times. I think it was the other board. And I said, how do I know if this is my responsibility or not? And they kept saying, oh, well, come look at it. No one ever came. No one ever checked it out. And I keep chopping off part of it on my brick wall side.
Okay, why don't you get, you want to give him? Talk to Scott, because Scott can help you find out where the property line is and all that kind of stuff as well.
Okay, yeah, because my realtor, no one said anything. It's like I assumed where the fences
I got to
were.
tell y'all,
That's it.
Being in the position we are, we've heard a lot of things that realtors have said.
Or not said.
And they're not necessarily accurate. So if you have a question, come to us. We may or may not have the answer, but we'll figure it out. Okay? Somebody else, I thought. No? Anybody else? Linda, did you have something? No? Yes.
I have a question. A couple weeks ago in the Chronicle, there was an article that Scott was walking the neighborhoods looking for violations, which is wonderful, long overdue. And I'm just curious what the status is, because I haven't seen any change in our neighborhood. It's still duck and dodge when you walk on the sidewalks.
Where do you live?
Slick Rock.
Okay.
But I walk the dog for a couple mile radius, and there's a ton of violations, dead and dying plants, trees over the sidewalk. I'm just curious if you've made it there, what the status is, when we can start complaining about.
So when there's a violation, we don't announce it to other neighbors. So we do the violation and then there's the escalation process. So yeah, Scott's walking every area.
Well, I don't want to complain about everything.
Yeah.
If he's done, I'll wait a month or so, and
He's
then
not done.
Oh.
He's not done. There's a lot of miles to walk.
The other thing is, if you see violations, especially those kind, and they could be safety issues, okay, report it to the office, because okay. Yeah, because we can't keep on top of everything all the time. And poor Scott in 100 degrees weather, it's a little hard walking the sidewalks. But what's that? Yeah. Oh, sidewalks. Also, if you see sidewalks that are uneven, most of the time, look to see if there's an ash tree right next to it. Okay? Because they cause that. And I know, in case you haven't gotten the communications you're allowed to chop those ash trees down. You don't need to replace them. We used to think it was a city requirement. It's not. And those ash trees are terrible. I cut mine down. They buckled my sidewalk. Okay. Did you have something, Allison? Oh, okay. Amy does? Hang on.
So the way that the violation process works is the first letter that you get is a courtesy letter. You have 14 days to cure that. After that, you'll get the formal notice, and then again, you have 14 days. So it's 14 days in between. It's not until after a month has passed will you get a fine if the issue is not resolved. So it's basically in increments of 14 days, and it might be a couple days later. It's not going to be earlier, but it might be a couple days later depending on when I can get around to revisiting that same neighborhood. It just depends on what the timeline breaks down as. But it is a 14-day at the earliest.
Good question.
We have, in our time here, not reached that point. But most of the time, the vast majority of the time, I think we had at one point a statistic. It was in the high 90s where it would be resolved before it ever even got to a fine. So it's really common that is.
Yeah, after the first courtesy notice, about 80% resolve the issue. And you know, if there's extenuating circumstances, you get a hold of the office and we work with them. And I think we have, though, had one or two lien situations, haven't we? Yeah. We certainly don't want to go that far. And that requires that we go to our lawyer, and that costs money. So we try to avoid that. Any other questions? Any other comments? Yes, of course.
Hey, everybody. I'm Paula. You know, I'm speaking now. I think I'm going to step back from as a board member and just become a resident. I moved here a little less than 3 years ago, and I found a wonderful, amazing, creative, fantastic community. And I have never regretted one day of coming here. I, too, am on a fixed income. It's just me. So I watch my pennies. And it's, you know, a scary time. I won't lie to you. But I started thinking about HOAs in a different way when I got on the board. And that is, our mission statement for Coral Canyon is to maintain and improve our property values. And I want to challenge you to think about how much your HOA fees were when you moved in here, and how much you paid for your house. How much is that house worth today? Do you have $100,000 in equity? Do you have $200,000 in equity? How much do you have? I venture to say, if my house went up, you know, doubled from what I paid for it, I'd be ecstatic. But my HOA fees when I moved in here were $55 a month, and they're now at $84. So I can't complain too much. I think the maintaining and improving our property values has contributed to the value of your home and how much it's gone up in equity. And the board is here to do just that. I think if the Views decides to go in, that would only further maintain and improve our property values as a whole, because it's such a great community. So I think that probably has, I can't say what that monetary value is, but to me, it's worth more than $3 a month or $36 a year. Just want to say that. And these people are people that I volunteer with, that work with us closely, that have become friends. So I feel like there is that piece of it, but I also want to look at the community as a whole because it is so amazing and not discount the value of that.
Don't I have a great board? Working with them, working with them is so awesome. They make my job a lot easier.
When I finished my MBA in 1976, my first job was managing a 450-unit apartment project. That's hell on earth. Because you're always the bad guy and never the good, right? Same with the board. And so I think it appears to me that you guys are doing a great job. And you take a lot of flack, but you also deserve a lot of credit. So I want to acknowledge that.
Well, thank you. I can't tell you how often I used to go to the Rolling Stones, see them when I was younger, and there's a line in one of the songs that says, "You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you get what you need." And I keep thinking about that every day when I'm on the board. Thank you for the recognition. Anything else? Thank you so much for coming. We'd love to have, this is just every 3 months or so. If you have thoughts, comments, questions, please send them to the office, or if you look at the Chronicle, you have a direct link to every board member's email. You can send the comments to all of us, to one of us, whatever you want, and we'll respond. Okay? Thank you for coming.